we started off all of these with the same question. Take us back to your law beginnings. What made you decide to become an attorney? And describe your law school experience.
So my father and grandfather were both attorneys and judges. And so that caused me to expect that's what I would end up doing. But I didn't know that for sure. And went to undergraduate school, majored in economics, thought maybe that would be something interesting to do. And then when I learned that if you are a professional in economics, you need to either teach at a university, which didn't sound much fun to me, or you needed to be in a financial center, like a Chicago or a New York or something like that. So I said, well, let me take the LSAT and try law school.
And where and when was that?
So I started law school in 1975 at UNC Chapel Hill.
So you finished it in 78?
I did.
Okay. So take us through your career. Oh, no, I'm going to back up. I'm going to back in law school. Tell us about your graduating class in law school. Like, what was the makeup of your class, men and women, like, back then?
Well, yeah. There were a lot more men than women, but we did have a good dose of women, to put it that way. And I had a lot of good friends who were women in our class. So I think by 78, it was not something unusual to have women. And they were very influential and, outspoken and fully active in the class. So it wasn't like there were just one or two. I mean, they were fully integrated into all the life of the class. Even playing volleyball between classes. I mean, it would be women were participating in it. So, it wasn't really any kind of issue by that time. I think the path had been made for women in the law, and it was just the men didn't see it as anything unusual at all.
So take us through your career. So you began to graduate law school. Mm-hmm. And take us through, how did you start? You were here in Wake County.
Right.
Did you start here?
I did. And in fact, maybe to back up, in law school, I thought that I was going to be a tax lawyer. So I took all the tax courses. My third year of law school, I was granted special permission by the dean, where I went to class 3 days a week and then worked for a lawyer who had a small tax practice 2 days a week. And so I did that my full third year of law school. So I thought I was going to be a tax lawyer. And then I got an opportunity to be a law clerk at the North Carolina Court of Appeals for who was then the chief judge, Naomi Morris. And I saw the litigation side of the law practice and sort of never looked back. Tax practice sounded sort of boring to me after seeing that.
So what was your first job coming out of law school? Take us through your
first job was as a law clerk. That was the most ideal transition from law school to the real world of private practice. Made a lot of friends, got to know a lot of the appellate judges, and there was a fun social life that went around it because you had a lot of young folks right out of law school just like me, and so we would socialize at nights and have lunches together. So there was a lot of camaraderie, but we learned a lot. I mean, at the Court of Appeals, there's a huge caseload, was then, still is, and as a result, you were exposed to all sorts of law, criminal, civil, domestic. And so we got to see all of that, and that was fascinating. But it caused me to be very interested in litigation. So my career path is not complicated. I went to the firm I'm with now in 1979. And I've been doing civil litigation ever since then.
And which firm is that? Tell us.
Young, Moore, and Henderson.
And so is it less typical now to have a career with one firm from that on, do you think? Or do you think that that's still the case? It's something you would stay with the same firm for so long?
I'm trying to think of other folks I know who've been with one firm for 45 years, and I can't think of them. But I'm sure there are others.
So through your career and Virtue Valley, with Young, Moore, and Henderson, do you have a mentor that you look to that was impactful for you in the early part of your career?
Right. The founder of the firm, Charles Young, Charlie, was the first mentor. But I was closer to Joe Moore and worked with him regularly. And Joe Moore was one of the founding members of the firm too, and he was quite a character. He was the type who's gruff on the outside and a softy on the inside. And so he was a big influence. And I also had a partner then, Jerry Alvis, who I tried several cases with. And I tried other cases with all the founders of the firm, which was a lot of fun to see the very different personalities and how they handle cases and how they handle different situations.
And talk about that mentor-mentee relationship as you became the mentor and you had mentees.
Mm-hmm. Right. I recognized how important that is, because you come out of law school and you don't know anything, let's be honest, right? Except you learn how to research, but you really don't know how to work with clients. You really don't know how to work with other lawyers. You really have no clue how to handle a case. And just to watch other folks do it, and to watch several different people with very different personality styles and very different ways of doing things was very helpful to me. You're always told, and I think it's true, you have to be yourself, but you can use examples of things that help you navigate that path and learn your way. And that's the wonderful thing about being a firm. I feel bad for those who aren't in a firm. They have to seek out mentors other ways. And it's very important to do that, because when you see, especially young lawyers who haven't had that benefit, you realize they're struggling. Maybe they don't even know it, but they are. So it's so important to have good mentors.
And what do you think is, since you've been in practice in Wake County for so long, describe the change in the legal landscape from when you started until now.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the big changes is you don't know everybody in quotes, like you used to. You don't see most everybody regularly. And when that's true, there tends to be less collaborative practice, less getting along. It can be more confrontational. When you don't know someone personally, you don't see them at the bar functions with their wife and their young children, right? And it becomes impossible with the number of lawyers we have in Wake County to maintain that kind of relationship. So we have to work hard at maintaining good relationships, even with lawyers that we don't know, and we have to presume the best, not the worst of them, that they want to be the same collegial professional that you want to be until they show you otherwise. And I found that's very helpful, to treat the old golden rule, treat others like you would want to be treated. And that, with rare exceptions, leads to good outcomes for everybody, good outcomes for the clients, good relationships between the lawyers.
And how has the Bar Association helped with that and that collegiality over your years?
Well, I think the bar's been essential to that. I can remember the days of the basketball league. You know, I don't know if we even do that anymore. I aged out of that. But that was that and every other opportunity to engage with other lawyers that's not in the confrontational or conflict status of a pending case is invaluable to developing professionalism among the lawyers. People laugh at that. That's just a social event. Well, that's really important for the long-term development of professional relationships, because if we have professional relationships and we respect one another, we can accomplish a whole lot more for our clients at much less expense than if we just engage in conflict. And so the bar in all the different functions, the parties, even the parties, the oyster roast. I love that. I love that. And the sports opportunities were really important. So, and the bar needs to, and I think does recognize that's got to continue. Yeah.
For sure. Talk about, can you tell us about the changes of the profession that you've seen technologically?
Yeah. Well, I started out and we had Selectrics. Typewriters, if people don't know what that is, some folks listen. And so I can remember one of our excellent secretaries breaking down in tears and just quitting when she was required to have a computer terminal at her desk that was her typewriter. She just couldn't take the change. She broke down in tears at her desk, and she just quit. And she was middle-aged. She wasn't elderly at all. But the technological changes have certainly made us more efficient in some ways, for sure. But they have challenged us in our ability to communicate effectively with each other. Because if it's easy, I remember the days we used to complain that we've got faxes now, and somebody can fax you something at the end of the day, and you can't respond to them or something like that. Well, now obviously we've got email and text going on, and that's immediate, and too many people respond immediately to something that either they perceive as aggressive or unpleasant, rather than giving it time to just sort of simmer a little bit. We used to have a 3-day rule in our firm. You get a nasty letter from somebody, you write the response right then, but then it sits on your desk for 3 days, and then you think about it, and of course it's going to change. And I think we need some form of that even with our text and email communications. We need to have time to let things sink in a little bit before we respond, because it's just too easy to respond emotionally rather than thoughtfully.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Tell us about an ethical dilemma that you faced in your legal career.
I'm not so sure it's ethical, but in a sense it is, and that is seeing another lawyer who's really messed up, and how do you deal with that and not take unfair advantage of that while at the same time effectively representing your client. That can present a dilemma. A lawyer misses an answer due deadline. A lawyer fails to respond to requests for remissions, or some, many other just hard deadlines, and they just miss them. And then you say, well, what do I do? And it's hardest if it's somebody you haven't gotten along with particularly well. And those are tough decisions, but I've always found out that in the final analysis, a case needs to be decided on its merits. That very often, if you try to take advantage of something like that on behalf of your client, then it's going to only end up prolonging things, making things more complicated, making things more expensive, and maybe not reaching as good a result for your client in the long run as you would otherwise want. So I've had that happen several times, and I've had to convince my clients it's not really in your best interest to take advantage of that. It's going to end up being more complicated and more expensive and for you. I guess that's one of the most interesting dilemmas I've personally faced from an ethical standpoint, knowing we have to be advocates for our clients.
What's a moment in the courtroom that you'll never forget? Like something funny or something memorable or something touching. What's something that sticks out to you from your career? Can you tell us that story?
I remember trying a case that everything was lined up against my client, and it was on the front page of the News and Observer every day as the plaintiff put on their case. And the time came for the defense to put on its case. And there was a nice young reporter in the courtroom for the whole first part of the trial. And we took a recess or maybe broke for the day. And I said, well, whatever his name was, look forward to seeing you back tomorrow so you can see, the other side of the story. He said, oh, I've been assigned to something else. I won't be back. And, that caused me to really realize that what people are seeing outside the courtroom is not what's going on in the courtroom. And one of the things I've tried to talk to juries about is that, you hear a lot of criticism of our court system, our lawyers and our judges. But I want you to sit through this trial and you look at how this judge works and you look at how these lawyers work and look at how all the courtroom personnel work. And you listen to all the evidence and you follow the judge's instructions and you render your verdict in this case. And at the end of the day, you're going to be proud of your system. You're going to be proud of it because you're going to do your job and you're going to see everybody else is doing their job. And it's not what you read in the newspapers and it's not what you see or hear on TV. But when you see the actual process work itself through and seeing everybody doing their jobs, you're going to be proud of what you've done. You're going to be proud of our system and you're going to have a lot of confidence in it.
And so is there one case in particular that really stuck out to you as really impactful for you?
Yeah, humility is a great thing. The case I was telling you that the court reporter didn't stay around for, after the defense put on their case, and it looked terrible for us, and the defense case just went splendidly, and the trial judge, who was a very experienced old Superior Court trial judge, called the lawyers to the bench after we had rested our case, and he said, well, I'll be damned, Walter. I never thought y'all could make anything out of this case. If I were sitting on the jury, I wouldn't give them $5. And I was defending the case. And the jury came back with a multi-million-dollar verdict. So I just realized the humility is you as a lawyer can do a great job, do the best you can with what you've got, but ultimately the facts and the law are going to drive the case. And so you just got to realize you only do the best you can.
So this career, this law life, the life of the legal professional can often lend itself to being stressful and there's a lot riding on it. There's people's lives and well-being. They're at stake. in a case. So how do you manage that stress and that pressure and that caseload? What do you do in life to help you manage that?
Find an outlet outside of the law practice. Mine's music. Love music, play music, write music, and do that. And so, yeah, you do need an outlet. And just put your nose down and do the work and don't worry. You know, that's part of it. A lot of people get stressed out and can't do it. And the important thing is just put your nose to the grindstone and just do the work. And if you do the work, it'll work out. You might not win, you might lose, but you will do a good job. And that's all you can do as a lawyer, right?
And what other things besides music? What outside of your life gave you balance in your life through your career?
Oh, well, family and kids and grandkids now. You know, that's the most important job. And there's a tug and pull at times. And sometimes you're not there as much as you want to be, and you feel bad about that. But you just work hard at that job too.
Tell us about the importance of that attorney-client relationship. What did that mean for you? And tell us about the importance of that.
Yeah. Well, you know, every case, every client's different. But it's really important, I think, that you respect that it's the client's case. And it may be that client's only case. And it may be that client's only case they'll ever have. So you need to respect the client and treat them as if, you know, you recognize that's their only case. And so you give them the attention they deserve, given it's their only case. Now, it may be just a little case for you as a lawyer. It may be one of many, many cases that you have. But it's their only case, and it's really important to them. And most people have a sense of lack of control, right? Because this is in this legal system. And, you know, I've heard all the bad things about the legal system, and I'm totally out of control. And you want to help them understand the process, understand that they do have some level of control in the case. There are things that they can do, and you have to keep them advised all along the way and understand their anxiety about the case. And if you do, they'll appreciate you. And if you work hard for them, they'll appreciate you, even if they don't get the best result. Right? They'll know you made the effort.
And Walter, where do you see the future of the legal profession and the legal community in Wake County going in the coming years?
You know, we're going to have more and more lawyers, and there's pressure to use technology to accomplish more and more. There's pressure on fees to be more efficient in fees and all. And I think it's just going to become harder and harder to be a professional in the true sense of being a professional rather than being an employee or a worker or feeling like you're part of a corporate structure as opposed to being an individual professional. I think it's just going to become harder and harder and harder to be an independent professional as well, to advise your clients, not tell them what they want to hear, but at the same time also be able to make a living, right? I think that's going to be hard.
So what is your best advice for a new attorney?
Find a mentor. If you're not in a firm, find a good mentor, somebody who has broad respect, and watch them and talk to them and learn from them while being yourself. Learn the ways that they handle themselves and try to adopt those things that are effective and professional. I think that's the most important thing you can do as a young lawyer. If you're in a law firm, I'm sure you'll have examples of that in your firm. If you're not in a firm, go find some folks. We've had mentor programs in the bar, and that people should take advantage of those.
Yeah. And where do you see your firm going in the future? I think you could speak to it because you were there
Yeah.
45 years. Well, what do you see for the future of your firm?
Yeah. I see our firm has not grown substantially over the last 20 years. We've sort of reached a point where we think we're at about the right size. We're about 42 lawyers, I think, which is a good size. You get much bigger. You become less of a firm. You don't know each other as well. Administration becomes difficult. Overhead becomes difficult. To me, it's a good size to be able to do to have the manpower to do what needs to be done, to have the backup to handle the case that you need. But it's not so big that you're feel like you're part of a corporation. You're still part of a law firm. So I think our growth will be modest over time as long as that approach to law practice remains, and I see that being the case.
Is there anything else you want to tell us and add to tell us about your law career?
Well, the only thing I guess I would add, just as a general thought, the law practice is a great career. It's hard. If people think it's easy, then do something else. If you're interested in just making money, do something else. But the law practice is very rewarding, even though it's very hard, because the bottom line is you're doing things for other people. You're trying to help solve problems, and I think that the law practice is one way to make that contribution, and it'll be very rewarding if you stick to it.
Well, thank you so much.
Sure.
Really appreciate you coming.